And welcome to the Sportscast, the first Sportscast of the year, January 2nd, 2018. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels and follow us on YouTube, Periscope, and iTunes. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. Well, first Sportscast of the year. I can't think of anyone else to start this off but Ryan Christa. Welcome to the Sportscast.
Thank you, Santiago. New year. I'm feeling refreshed, ready for 2019 year of sports to begin.
Big year in sports. Sports is only getting bigger, the rise of soccer and hockey. But let's get to it. Your Florida Gators defeated Michigan at the Peach Bowl. Were you surprised? Was this a big win? What do you see this win for? How would you define it?
It didn't surprise me we won. It surprised me the way we kind of just dominated Michigan from the beginning to the end, and definitely in the second half. The Gators made winning plays, showed how tough they were in the line of scrimmage, and just kind of how SEC seeded Michigan when they kind of did in the second half. And I know Michigan was kind of a little bit of a shell of itself, missing a couple of their best players who didn't play, wanting to rest up for the NFL combine and get ready for the draft. But with that saying, I was definitely impressed and kind of excited now for the 2019 Gators season, because a lot of these players we have on our roster right now will be back, and we're adding more talent with a pretty good recruiting class coming in for next year. I think expectations were for Dan Mullen in his first year just to get better, change the culture, just look more like a legitimate college football team that we didn't see the last couple of years. And he did that and more. There's just a sense of pride the Gators played with this year that just excited not just me, but the rest of Gator Nation. That we're not just, we're not excited for next year, but for years to come, because of the way this year went.
Lamical Perrine had a 5-yard scoring catch and a 53-yard touchdown run to lead number 10 Florida's strong rushing attack Saturday, helping the Gators cap their comeback season with a 41-15 rout of number 8 Michigan in the Peach Bowl. After finishing 4-7 in 2017, Florida enjoyed a dramatic turnaround in Dan Mullen's debut season as coach. Do you think Mullen is the right guy for the future?
Absolutely. They're kind of just really wanting Chip Kelly to come in and bring this crazy, great offense, but really what we needed was a Dan Mullen, who is one of the best quarterback developers that we've seen in college football. The system worked here in Florida because they won a couple of national championships years ago with Tim Tebow, and he was the offensive coordinator. And he just knows how to win here in Florida, and he knows what it takes. Was there some tough moments this year? Absolutely. Losing to Kentucky for the first time in a very long time. A disappointing home loss and homecoming to Missouri was tough, but the way they finished, just excited that, the Gators, 3 weeks left in the season, they have a game at home against South Carolina, down by 14 midway through the third quarter. And it kind of looked like the season was crumbling, kind of like we've seen the last couple of years under Jim McElwain. But it just seemed like he just kept on coaching, and the team kept on believing. They went on a huge run in the game and beat South Carolina. Did what they had to do against Idaho, and just came and beat the Seminoles in the last game of the regular, something they hadn't done in a very long time. And then finished, obviously, with a great bowl win. It's just nice to be excited for the next season. We haven't felt that in a long time as a Gators fan.
How do you view Jim Harbaugh, the coach of Michigan's future? Do you think he's going to come back, or do you think he's going to take one of those vacancies in the NFL?
I mean, he says he's not. He says he wants to be here in Michigan long term, but Michigan is a hard place. you're always going against Ohio State. And right now, Ohio State's got things rolling, even with the new coach Ryan Day. So no matter how much you do, if you don't beat Ohio State, you're always going to think your season's a failure. He hasn't beaten Ohio State, but yeah, he's kind of turned the program. They're consistently getting 9-10 wins. It just seems like the Michigan fan base, so they were excited at first. Now it seems like they're getting a little antsy. They want more. Well, but it just seems like I've always thought Jim Harbaugh being, an NFL guy. He's got that tough guy look. He coaches an NFL system, what's I think holding Michigan back a little bit is that they kind of refuse to go to the modern college offense of, up-tempo spread. They want to stay with the basic pro formations, pro style. While it has its advantages, I feel like they're kind of missing out on the advantages that this modern college offense is using the rules to their advantage and tempo. Just kind of the stubbornness not to change, but I do think he's doing a good job. And if you had to put a gun to my head, I don't think he even interviews for any NFL job. But it doesn't mean if one more year of, average, above average season in Michigan, I think if pressure gets too much, I do think he'll go back to the NFL.
From the comments, they're saying that Harbaugh was 1-9 against top 10 teams, 2-7 against rivals, and 1 bowl win. Do you think he's overrated?
No, because Michigan had little of no success before he got to, Ann Arbor a couple years prior. And what he did, he literally, that Stanford that we see now winning 8, 9, 10 wins, they were literally the biggest dumpster fire out in the Pacific. When he got there, they were terrible. He transformed their culture. He showed that you can win at an academic school. So, no, I don't think he's overrated. And what he did with the 49ers, taking them to the Super Bowl, if you look what they've done before he got to the 49ers and after he got to the 49ers, shows how good of a coach he is. So, no, is he overrated? No. Does he get too much attention and time? Yes.
Speaking about Black Monday, we're talking about it. These were the coaches that got fired. Arizona Cardinals, Steve Wilkes. Miami Dolphins, Adam Gase. Broncos coach Vance Joseph. Bengals, Marvin Lewis. Buccaneers, Dirk Koetter. And New York Jets, Todd Bowles. From this list, who do you think was the most surprising?
Probably Steve Wilkes of Arizona because it's his first year, and he was kind of forced his hand on starting a rookie quarterback. They didn't have very much talent on their team. I guess I just don't know what the management was expecting from this year. These views are from the outside. We don't know what the culture was inside the locker room. Maybe he didn't handle things well there. So there's a lot of things we can make judgments on that we're just not there all the time that management sees. But that was probably the most surprising because usually you at least get 2 years to change things up. In the NFL, it's kind of a win now no matter what because of how the league is structured. You can usually turn your team around within 2 years, and if you can't, then you're probably not the right guy. But 1 year just seemed a little bit quick for me. But the other one that's kind of surprising was your local Miami Dolphins, because it's not like the Dolphins are bad, but they just were never good enough. I think, Mr. Ross wants high expectations for his franchise. He put a lot of money into the stadium. I just think, he wants this rock star team, this kind of this team that, is high-flying, fun to watch, I don't think he even wants to win necessarily a lot of games. He just wants a lot of people to talk about the Dolphins. And I think for Ryan Tannehill and Adam Gase, they just weren't that. They were just kind of your average Dolphins team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was kind of questioning Gase's leadership. I think, some decision making of getting Cutler in and things like that. I mean, he's a young coach, came from Nick Saban, but I don't know, just didn't really, have that dominant force, I guess, and but we'll see what happens. There's 6 vacant spots. And talk about the Broncos. Vance Joseph got fired. Are you happy about that? Was that like the right move?
As a guy who watched every snap for the last 2 years, I never want to see a guy get fired. I want to see him have a chance. But it's not that they were losing games the way they lose it. They're undisciplined. They just seem clueless at times. They, unmotivated at times. The middle of the season, they're 3-6. They win 3 straight games against, winning against the Steelers, at San Diego, at Cincinnati. They're 6-6, and they got, games against the 49ers, Browns, Raiders, and home against the Chargers, and everybody around the fan base is thinking, we're going to do it. We're going to probably win 7 straight games to make the playoffs. But they end up going and, kind of falling in their face. They did deal with a lot of injuries. They're starting, they're having 2 rookie running backs, 2 rookie wide receivers. Some of it has to do with the personnel issues, but why they had to make them changes is they just seem to lack organization on the field, silly penalties. The stuff that kind of reflects on coaching, not necessarily on talent.
Adam Gase is reportedly having an interview with Arizona Cardinals. You expect Gase to be the first one hired?
I think so, because he didn't do a bad job in Miami. I don't think they were as talented as, they probably got the amount of wins they should have. They're probably a 7-win talent team, and they won 7 games or 8 games, whatever it has to be. Made the playoffs one time. And I think he's good with quarterbacks. And obviously Josh Rosen, of all the 5 rookie quarterbacks they're taking last year, by far struggled the most. And I think they need, and that's probably why, Arizona, another reason why they made the move, they wanted to go with an offensive-minded coach to be around Josh Rosen, because when you pick a guy that high, you're going to give the quarterback always going to get the benefit of the doubt, and you're going to put people around him in the organization to get him to succeed.
Which of the rookie quarterbacks, including Lamar Jackson, had a good first year?
They all had, maybe Josh Rosen had the least amount of best moments, but they all had their moments. Being here in Rochester, I got to see a lot of Josh Allen. I know he missed a lot of the middle of the season, but from the end of the season, from the beginning of the season, this guy was a totally new quarterback, and kind of changing the Bills put around the system. Well, it wasn't a college-like system, but they gave him the luxury to, run the ball more than most NFL quarterbacks do, and, being a big, strong guy, with, decent speed, he was almost 3 straight games of over 100 yards. His biggest issue was accuracy in college, and still is his biggest issue. Low percentage, completion percentage is, he's got to pick that up. But he's also working with probably the worst, sets of receivers in the NFL by far. So the Bills' number 1 priority is to put, more talent around him. But, Sam Darnold had moments of greatness, but Lamar Jackson basically keeping Super Bowl winning quarterback Joe Flacco on the bench right now. What is he, 6-1 as a starter? They changed their offense around a little bit to fit him, but still, they won a lot of tough games, a lot of important games that a lot of NFL quarterbacks with veteran experience don't win. And, I credit to the offensive staff in Baltimore for, catering an offense for him, but also credit to him for going out there and doing it. But by far the best rookie quarterback was, from beginning to end, was Baker Mayfield. I think I told you beginning of the season I thought the success of the Browns won 5 games, but they end up winning 7 games, or they're 7, 8, and 1. That was a major success for the organization. It gave them hope, and I wouldn't be surprised if the championships for AFC North are going to start going through Cleveland if they continue to put a good team around them. I don't think Greg Williams is a great choice for the long-term future of the Browns, but he was the right choice for the interim. The team played hard for him. I would love to see them even go with Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator, as a head coach, because he just, he got the most out of Baker Mayfield, and they seem to have a great relationship. But we'll see what, I think keeping him on staff no matter what is going to be important.
But don't you think that they should, the Browns should keep Greg Williams? I mean, just keep what's working.
Yes, but, too many times, not just in NFL, but in both college, football, basketball, NBA, when you change a coach, for some reason, you're doing it to get a spark, and that seemed to spark the Browns. But you're not looking for next year; you're looking for the long-term future of the Browns. And Greg Williams, is a great defensive coach, but he's got a history of kind of being hard to deal with, hard to work with. He's got a big personality. I think if they can hire, a good offensive mind, keeping him as a defensive coach, if he's willing to do that, will be great. I doubt, anybody will be wanting to go from head coach back to coordinator in the same organization. But, yeah, you got a point, but you got to look at the long-term future, too.
Very much so. The Browns seems like the team of the future, which is what I said about the Jaguars last year. And Josh Allen, back to what you were saying, I think Josh Allen has a lot of potential. Man, he can sure run.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, Santiago, we haven't, even some, he's putting up Michael Vick numbers, and he's not, I think Michael Vick was, he's stronger than Michael Vick, but he's not that kind of speed, but, man, he's great off the field, and he can, he's running over people, granted, as he put more weapons around him, and he's got to improve his passing consistency, but, I think, and then rely on the running when he has to. But right now, I feel like, whatever way you got to win a game for this organization, you're going to do it. I was telling I was talking to my wife, being a local like her, she grown up as being a Bills fan, and I told her, and I've heard this from multiple people, even though the Bills went to the playoffs last year, this team is in a much better shape, winning 6 games this year. It has a much brighter future than they did last year when winning 10 games. Because they have a direction now. Last year they didn't have that. They were just kind of a team that got every break in the world, and they made it to the playoffs. And it showed in their game against the Jaguars. They just don't have very much talent. But, they drafted well this year. Their best offensive player, Josh Allen, and their best defensive player, Jermaine Edwards, were both taken in the early rounds. And it just seems like for the first time in a while, this organization seems to be going in the right direction.
And I guess, the Bills' future looks very bright with Josh Allen. I kind of wish Vontae Davis should have stuck around.
I think that was more of a Vontae just realizing he didn't have it anymore, and I don't ever recommend quitting within a game, but, I don't think he was long for this team, for this league anymore anyways.
Kyle Williams retired this past weekend. What were your thoughts about his career?
One of the most iconic Bills, through a lot of their tough seasons, one of the most consistent factors is how hard Kyle Williams played and the plays he made and the icon he was in the community here. Because he wasn't like an athlete, had this, ultra lifestyle, but his life was just like an average person, country boy from Louisiana, he was very friendly, always willing to sign autographs. Was best ever build? No, but he was always consistent. The fans loved him. You know, you talk about a game when it was, 15, 20 degrees in December, and the game that didn't matter at all in the playoffs, and you almost have a full stadium in Buffalo, unheard of. But they all were there, because they wanted to say goodbye to Kyle Williams. And, I not a Bills fan, but, somebody who's close to,
who knows a little bit more about the Bills more than we do. Yeah, like the Bills are definitely a team to watch out for in the future, and the Dolphins have to put their act together to get a new quarterback. I think Tannehill is out.
I think you're going to see it next year, the Bills overtaking the Patriots.
Wow.
But I think, we saw, I'm not saying next year, but I think when we're talking this time next year, I think the Bills get to 8-9 wins, and I think the Patriots drop down to 9 wins. I think you're definitely seeing a change of guard. The Patriots are winning games, but they just seem very vulnerable this year.
Yeah, they look pretty off this year.
But at the same time, how can you go against them when it comes to the playoffs? Because TB12 is back there.
And though they usually go to the Super Bowl when they have home field advantage. This year they don't, but Kansas City does have a weak defense, so we'll definitely keep an eye if the Patriots go on to the AFC Championship. Should the Dolphins get rid of Tannehill?
It depends on who their new coach is.
Yeah.
We talked about Nick Foles. He's going to be kind of the domino this summer. This summer probably. When we're talking here in March, when free agency starts.
But what if the Eagles win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles again this year?
That complicates it, but I feel like the Eagles had a very good team last year. I don't know if they have that type of team this year. And I know they got in, and I know they're playing inspired football the last couple of weeks, and sometimes, coming in, getting hot at the right time makes a big difference. It didn't really surprise me last year that winning the Super Bowl because I think they had a really good team beyond their quarterback. I just don't know if they have that this year. And I don't know if Nick Foles can do it 2 years in a row. Because what he's done in the last couple of weeks of the regular season has been great. It's just hard for him to imagine that somebody, continue to do that.
So you're thinking the Dolphins, if Foles, is a free agent, should consider Foles?
Well, I think he's ending up either, Jacksonville or
Miami.
I believe.
He's going to Florida.
I believe so. I don't know anything more than you, Santiago, but that's just a hunch.
And the Buccaneers had decided to keep James Winston. Was that a right choice?
He's got all the talent in the world, Santiago, and they got a lot of talent on that offense. I know
Mike Evans.
Jackson, has said he wants to move on from the organization, but if whoever comes in as a new coach can, keep him, Mike Evans, with Peyton back and the running back, I think this team can put up a lot of points. Can they build a defense around a consistent defense? Yeah, I do think it'll be a defensive-minded head coach, though, for the Buccaneers over there.
Yeah, it's something that the Buccaneers have a lot of talent, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. So Nathan Peterman.
To me, I've watched a lot of football in my life, and I just don't